And we are recording. So thank you both for joining us. Happy reunion. How exciting. A few quick things before I jump it over to Rita. This event, I think, might be best viewed in speaker, but Rita, please correct me if that's wrong, speaker view.
Actually, I'm fine with people leaving it gallery view. You might want to toggle between the two. And if you don't know where that is, at the top right corner, it gives you the option of gallery and speaker. Gallery, if we show each other our work, that's a nice way to look at everyone's work. If you prefer just to see that person speaking, I think that's really your choice. Just to make sure, I think I'm going to ask, and I can go ahead and share this, that you have some supplies available. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen so that you see what supplies you need. So if you need a minute to gather things, feel free to gather. This is an interactive workshop, so I'm going to ask you to draw with me. I'm going to be drawing too. It's pretty much we're just going to draw.
Would be great for Grant.
Yeah. So hello. So if you have, and if it's hard to read for you, I'm asking you to have 4 pieces of paper. 4 pieces of paper out, 4 different drawing tools. If you have some pencils, pens, if you have a highlighter or color pencil, whatever, if you have, grandchildren or children around, you have crayons, that works. Find a comfortable spot to work in. And I'm just going to ask you to come in with a beginner's mind. I'm even going to ask if Olivia can join us in the drawing experience so that everyone has to go through this together. And by beginner's mind, I just mean, please don't say you can't draw, because this isn't about that. It's more about just kind of wrist and finger exercises and relaxing, a kind of mindfulness practice. So I'll leave this slide up for a second, but I can also list these supplies in the chat.
Ooh, I like your additions of a comfy spot.
Yeah, it's so important to be comfortable. I'm like a big standing drawer. And also in terms of like something to drink, I've got my iced coffee. If you prefer an adult beverage, go for it. If you need just tea or whatever, that's fine. And even if people hop off and on, we'll go ahead and reintroduce them to what we're working on. So just a little introduction about who I am. I'm a practicing artist. This is actually my first year at Phillips Academy. I was the department head of a visual arts department in Chicago, and I had a really wonderful experience. And I've had a really wonderful experience this year. Despite what's happening. And of course, we've been online all year. So with a little bit of time, students. So I've slowly been getting to know the culture and the campus. So I'd love to hear your perspectives and thoughts and advice as I go into my second year here. So the first, I'm gathering father and daughter. Okay, so you might learn some things about each other that you didn't know through this, I hope. And I'm just going to start by asking you to take whatever sheet of paper you have. And I have a few random sheets here. And I'm just going to ask you to just make scribbles. So like scribble whatever your state of mind is right now. And again, I'm having Olivia join us. So whatever your state of mind is, if it's just like, I'm like feeling energetic, or I'm feeling really sleepy. If you're sleepy, maybe your line is a little slower. If it looks like total chicken scratch, not a problem. So just a really brief, quick doodle, and I can even do mine right here with you. And I think I'm feeling more like going with the flow today. So I'm going to do just sort of a flowy, scribbly line. It's been some end of term exhaustion. So I'm feeling like the line is really a gentle line. Your line might feel a little different. I'm just going to take about 30 more seconds. So try to fill the page if you can. So the next thing I'm going to ask you to do is just to title your piece, whatever title you want to give it, but the title has to include your name. And if you've just joined us, I'm going to ask you to make a quick scribble describing your current state of mind. So John and Barbara, I welcome you to just grab any paper you have, any drawing tools, and just make a quick scribble. And I think my scribble was less of a scribble and more of a flowy line. If you also just joined us, I'm going to go ahead and share in the chat what you need for today. If you're coming up with your title, you can do that as well. So this is what I made, and I'll start by sharing. So my name's Rita, and I was just feeling very like flowy today. So now I have to come up with a title for this, and I think I'm going to call it that. I'll call it Flowy, and I'm actually just going to find a way to incorporate the title somewhere in my drawing. And it's, I wish I did a cursive F because it sort of doesn't, the F doesn't fit with the rest of the style, but I'm not judging myself. This is my first drawing of the day, getting a late start. It's a warm up. Okay. So I've made a scribble, I've written a title, and oh, I forgot to include my name in the title. So I'm gonna call this Rita Feels Flowy. And I think I'll tap Olivia next. What did you create, Olivia?
Thank you, Rita. Can you all see my screen or my drawing? So mine feels less flowy. I think it's representative of my state of mind of kind of disjointed little pockets of thoughts. So that's actually what I titled it, as The Mind and What Matters to OC, Olivia Cristaldi.
And if you don't feel comfortable sharing your drawing, feel free in the chat, you can actually select me and private message me and just say, I'd rather not share. But otherwise, I'm gonna kind of popcorn style pick. Charles, do you mind sharing? And you might need to unmute, which is just in the top right corner.
Yeah.
Oh, that's beautiful. That actually is a very nice compositional piece. Can you talk a little bit about your choices?
Well, I was thinking of the mountains, and I'm sitting by the ocean here. So the mountains, the ocean, and then some lines and circles just to fill in the space. And I titled it Squiggles.
I love that. Charles Squiggles. Great.
I don't get ejected from the class.
No, it's actually very nicely laid out. It reminds me of how Georgia O'Keeffe lays out her clouds in the sky. So thank you for sharing. Is it Lucy? And if you have any specific name pronunciations or pronouns, you feel free to let me know how to address you.
Okay, yeah, it's Lucy. So this is what came out. I started here and I realized I'm nervous and excited to see my classmates. So that's the title. Lucy is nerve-sighted to see her classmates.
Awesome. I love that. And I know Barbara and John and several other people have just jumped on. We're sharing just quick scribbles of how our current state of mind is right now, and then we're titling it with an adjective in our name. Barbara, did you get a chance to make a quick drawing? And sorry, you'll have to unmute. Just click the top right-hand corner. And you'll see a request to unmute.
Okay, can you see this? Oh, just a second.
Hold it up a little higher.
All right, well, the thing, yeah, okay.
Got it. Nice. So tell us about the movement you chose.
Well, the reason I chose this is that I have been struggling for 20 minutes to find this session. And I don't know. I find a lot of technology. I get a lot of frustration with technology, and today unfortunately is no exception. But anyway, I'm here.
You know, I think we all can empathize with that feeling. This year has been a huge learning curve for everyone. So the fact that you even found this room to be here, like, you all deserve a gold star. I actually struggled too, so I'm not gonna lie. I almost
yeah, maybe, you know, sometimes I just feel really stupid, but then, you know, I run into things and it seems like everybody struggles. Well, not everybody, but a lot of people do struggle with it. I'm not alone. I have a lot of company. So
you are in excellent company. At least on my end. I only speak for myself. And for those of you with your cameras off, you're welcome to share if you put your camera on, or if you prefer not to share, you don't have to. Another way is if you choose to email Olivia your drawing, she can also share it. So if anybody with their camera off would like to share, feel free, and I'll give you a second to respond. And you can also type in the chat if you prefer not to. And Olivia has put her email address, so you can send whatever you create that we can share separately that way. So our second drawing is going to be more of a warm up. So a lot of times, who's right-handed here? And those of you who are participating remotely, there's actually an option. If you look down at the bottom, it should say something called reactions. On your panel, and you can actually leave a little emoji or heart or thumbs up in the corner of your screen. So if you would like to participate, feel free to respond that way. Or in the chat, you can say yes or no. If you're on your phone, it's a little hard to toggle between the chat and the video. So this next exercise is actually going to be just ambidextrous spiral drawings. So I think Charles got a heads up on us because he already made a spiral kind of shape. We're going to do that together really quickly. So you'll see me kind of jump videos. And I'm just going to grab another drawing tool. Maybe it's a pencil, or maybe it's a color, or maybe it's a marker. I have this blue pencil here and I have a highlighter. This is just sort of what I had around. And I'm just going to flip my scribble drawing. Or if you want to get a fresh piece of paper, you can. But you can just simply flip your scribble drawing. And I just want you to start anywhere on the page. So maybe it's the left-hand corner, the right-hand corner, and make a dot, and then from there, create a spiral. Your spiral can be close together, and it can be getting wider. It's up to you. It can go off the page. And this exercise is borrowed from the really wonderful artist, Linda Berry, who's a graphic novelist and a comic book artist. So we can all kind of figure out how to draw our spiral. Mine's looking a little little squished, and that's okay. And it's going off the page. And I'm just gonna fill the whole page. So wherever I get on this, that's where it'll go. And then you can use the same drawing tool or a different drawing tool once you finish your spiral. You're gonna make one more, but this time I'm gonna ask you to switch hands. So if you're right-handed, you're gonna use your left hand. If you're left-handed, you're gonna use your right hand. And if you're ambidextrous, well, then you have one up on all of us. So you can start from the same spot, or you can choose a different spot. And I'm just gonna attempt to make a spiral, and I actually don't like it on the same spot here. So I'm just gonna start somewhere else on my page. Feel free to start wherever you want. And the key here is just to try to relax your wrist. You notice if you're pressing too hard, maybe you just need to kind of allow your wrist to flow a little more. If you're holding your tool right at the end, you might need to just move your hand back so that you're forced to let go of some control. Something that makes a mark really beautiful and a drawing really beautiful is that the humanness of it, right? The handmade quality. Doesn't always have to be so controlled, so mechanic. A lot of students say, well, I can't, draw, like I can't draw something based on what it looks like. And I'm like, but where's the human? Where's the homemade? We can always take a photograph if we want it to be exactly the same. I'm struggling a little with my left hand, but I'm able to feel the page. So those are what my two spirals look like now. Kind of look like a dizzy eyes. And now I'm just gonna take a third tool. And if you're still on your first spiral, fine, no problem. If you're still on your second spiral, that's fine. For the third spiral, I'm actually not gonna do a spiral. I'm gonna take two devices. And I'm just gonna start kind of filling in areas with lines. So right now I think I'm gonna switch. I have a highlighter and a black. And I'm gonna start just kind of filling in sections simultaneously. So I'm using both of my hands at the same time. If you find your paper moving on you, you can weigh it down with something. Maybe the coffee or adult beverage you have can help weigh it down. So I'm just gonna find different areas and start filling in gaps. And this exercise actually activates both sides of your brain. I know our brains actually really aren't divided into spheres as cleanly as we once assumed, but it's a way of kind of activating that side of your body, both mentally and physically, especially if you're using a non-dominant hand. I'm gonna kind of switch my tools out. And you'll be surprised that if you mat and frame some of these drawings, they look very professional. And I think the reason is with the left hand, if you're right-handed, you can really achieve like a very kind of honest mark. I'm just sort of scooting around my composition so it doesn't feel too cluttered in parts. But if you want to cluster your marks, you can. And then I'm going to find somewhere to write my name again. I like writing in cursive, so I'll just write my name here. And I'll also type out those steps in the chat if you're joining us without your camera. So what I did was I drew one spiral with my right hand, one with my left hand. Then I used both hands to color in areas so that it was filled simultaneously. And then I found a place to write my name. So I've also included the steps. And I know I kind of let you loose on that one. So if you were able to follow along watching, wonderful. If you weren't, please refer to the chat. Did anyone finish their drawing? And if you have difficulty hearing me, let me know. Great, Barbara, do you want to start? Oh, that looks fantastic. I love those.
Well, I started, this is my left, this is my left hand here. And then this is my right hand. No, this is my right hand. This is my left hand. And I actually was surprised at how well I did with my right hand, my left hand, because I'm right-handed. And then I did the coloring in the simultaneously, and I turned the paper when I did the ones that are across here. So it was just, I don't know, just playing with it.
And I love that you turned the paper. I think that's a really clever move. So yeah, I definitely encourage you to turn your paper around if you're not, especially if you're like sitting in the same spot.
And the thing is that you can tell I like things to be like symmetrical and everything.
Oh, there's so much you can read into intuitive drawing for sure. Lucy, would you like to go next?
Ooh, look at that.
Wow.
I loved trying to color with both hands. That was so fun and hard.
Yeah.
Oh, I know. And I'll share that I have an almost 2-year-old, and the coloring, just the enthusiasm is so genuine and so authentic. And I feel like I wish I still had that, you know, and I Lucy, I noticed a little bit with you, that kind of sensibility, and I really like that.
It was fun. Thank you.
Charles, what about you? And I'll just ask you to unmute briefly, but I do really, that almost feels like a constellation. So you'll see a little notification that says ask to unmute.
I actually, the thing is showing through I was thinking of the universe, and I have to admit, this yellow I did with only one hand. I wasn't doing anything with the other hand. And I was thinking of the expanding universe and Einstein's wonderful comment that there are only two things that are unlimited: the universe and human stupidity.
That's a deep quote for sure. And I definitely, you know, can think of a lot of applications, even my own behavior, you know. So thank you for sharing that and your insights. So the next thing we're going to do is, and we really have like 2 drawings, and this will go kind of quickly, is to create a timeline. So I'm going to ask you to create sort of a visual timeline. Do you remember long ago if you did graphs? The last time I did a graph was like math in high school. But I went to art school, so I never had to take math again after high school. So I'm going to ask you to just create a graph, and I'm going to do this along with you. But one axis Is it, and I apologize, is it axes or axis? Does anyone know what the plural is?
Oh, plural is axes.
Axes thing. I knew I would get that wrong. I was scared to show my presentation in case that was wrong. So axes are, so you're going to do 2 axes. And actually I suggest the horizontal one be somewhere in the middle and the vertical one be kind of a little inward. So if I were to do one, and I'm going to again switch my camera so you can see. And welcome, Sarah. You're just in time for our timeline drawing. So I'm going to ask you to just grab a fresh sheet of paper. This one, we definitely want a new sheet, clean sheet. You can use whatever tool you like for this, but I'm going to draw, Lucy, again, axes.
Axes is plural, axis is if it's one.
Thank you. Axes, I'm going to ask you to draw axes, a vertical one and a horizontal one. I'm always learning from y'all. And then Janet, welcome. I'm just gonna ask you if you just joined us to grab a piece of paper, 2 pieces of paper and some drawing tools. It can be, I have a highlighter, some colored pencils, markers, so whatever works for you. And it looks like I already smeared this, but that's all right. So here I'm gonna write time. And here I'm gonna write happiness. And because some things might dip below the happiness mark, you can write time a little bit lower. Maybe your graph looks a little more like this. This could be 0, you know, totally neutral.
What is the vertical axis called?
Happiness. And I'll write that here, happiness. And time. And I'll also put that in the chat. So the vertical will be happiness, horizontal will be time. And I'm going to ask you just to choose any time. So maybe it's 2020 to 2021, if you dare. Maybe it's, you know, childhood, my first 10 years of being alive. Maybe it's your entire lifetime, or a decade or 5-year period. You know, so if I were to choose, for example, my childhood, I might choose 0 to 10, and then I could divide it up, you know, 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, probably gonna get a little tight here, 7, I'll add more, 8. It doesn't have to be perfect or beautiful. This is really about gathering data for our drawing. So this would be my first 10 years of life. Again, if you want to try 2020 to 2021, there's so much that went on this year. You might have plenty of material. And then you're going to chart. I'm going to ask you just to chart your happiness. So, you know, I can't really remember your 1 and 2, so that's going to be pretty neutral. 3, I think it was fine. And I remember this time being great, but like year 9 was amazing. Something, I think I discovered the Chronicles of Narnia, and that just pretty much got me through year 10. And, you know, we don't want to talk about middle school, so I'm just gonna stop there. So that's what my happiness timeline looks like. I sort of just chose a really high point. Although now that I think back, I think there was a few high points, you know, around this area. So I'm gonna give you a minute just to create your own timeline. And if you don't want to reveal your age, no need to put a year. So once you have your timeline, I'm going to ask you to, on that same sheet of paper, list a few things. And because this is a little bit of a list, I'm going to have you, I'm actually going to just share my screen with you, what I'd like you to include. So on your chart, once you complete it, select one happy point. You might have many happy points, many low points, but just choose one peak moment. And then I want you to reflect on that moment, however you need to. So maybe you need to turn your screen off. Maybe you need to step away from the computer. But I'd like you to think of 3 textures, 3 sounds, 3 smells, 3 nouns, and 3 adjectives. So 3 textures, 3 sounds, 3 smells, 3 nouns, 3 adjectives. And I'm going to write mine here. And I'm going to put a little music on just so that you have time to reflect as well. We'll take about 2 minutes for this. Some of these might be the same, like you might have the same texture, sound, and smell. About 1 more minute. So if you are still working on your list, that's perfectly fine. I'm going to ask you to just stop, even if you haven't listed everything here. Whatever you have now will likely be enough to create what we are going to create. So I'm going to ask you to use that list. And on a fresh sheet of paper, brand new sheet of paper. So if you don't have more paper, get up, grab what you need. I have a new sheet of paper here. You can turn it this way or this way, but I'm going to ask you just to draw whatever composition you want. So say you want to use the whole page, use the whole page, or maybe you just make like a tiny drawing. So maybe your composition, say if you were planning a painting or something, is a little smaller, and I know that's a little tough to see, but maybe you just make a really tiny drawing. I saw Barbara's first drawing was real small, and maybe you prefer like a smaller scale, so you can use that. Or Charles, you had a full composition, so you can use the full page if you want to. So using only that list, I'm going to ask you to create a drawing. What does that mean? How can you replicate texture? So I'm actually going to create a drawing kind of in front of you very quickly, just to give you a sense. And then I'm going to let you loose whatever you choose and however you choose to approach it. There's no wrong way. So I have my list handy on purpose so I can see it. I'm thinking about a moment where I was in the public library reading books, and I discovered C.S. Lewis and the Chronicles of Narnia, and just like how amazing that was. And so I think I'm going to make a composition that's about this size, just because I want to work a little smaller, and so that you all can see better. And I wrote book pages, green carpet, and cotton shirt. So book pages sort of felt like this to me. And the carpet, I remember it was really prickly. And then I had like a really soft cotton shirt. So maybe I'm just gonna draw a little like crumpled up shirt here, right? But I just remember a lot of book pages. And then here I wrote whispering. There was a lot of whispering. And to me, whispering kind of looks like something like that. And then I might switch colors and think about, oh, there were a lot of bookshelves I wrote down. So I'm gonna draw some bookshelves. And I'm just going to let that overlap with something else. And I remember being kind of imaginative. So maybe I'll just have like a bubble here, because I was sort of always in this imaginative space with this book. And then I might just fill in some areas, kind of whatever looks like it needs a little more information or feels too empty. So this isn't a very literal drawing. It's just taking kind of those memories of what I felt and saw, and trying to show sound in a visual way. So I also wrote that the doors, they would beep when they open. So maybe I'll have some like dots to represent that beeping, or maybe I'll just draw an actual door. So that took about 2 minutes to create. So I'm not asking that this be a super in-depth drawing. If you want to flex your drawing skills, please do. But consider this a very low risk piece. And I'm going to keep working on this. And I think we have about, I guess, 3-ish minutes. So, but don't let that concern you. Like if you're not done, totally fine. Maybe you just make a miniature composition today. But I encourage you to try to fill whatever shape you create. If it's the whole page, fill the whole page, or maybe it's just this little rectangle or circle or whatever you started with. So to put a little music on for our work time, and I'll stop it when we're done. going to ask you to go ahead and wrap up what you're doing. Wherever you are in the process. And this is sort of how mine turned out. Oh, I love that. So if you could, if you're also having your camera on, I'd love if we could just hold up what we've completed so far. So sort of low risk, we can all see at the same time what everybody's done. Wonderful. And if you're still on your timeline and haven't moved to the composition, you have homework. So feel free to also share. I'm going to ask you just to share whatever you've created with Olivia. Oh, I love that, Charles. And Charles, I'll ask you to unmute again. I'm sorry, I did mute you earlier. So.
Dad, you're on mute.
I had to get up to take that picture. It's right outside the window where I'm sitting.
Hey, you got to do what you got to do. Drawing is not necessarily about sitting and doing the work. It's about noticing things. And if you were so aware, have become so aware that you noticed that, I think we did our job, right?
But
So thank you for sharing that and for your
I did the timeline, and I've been very happy just about forever. But I was especially happy at the time of the birth of each of my 4 children. So those are the little bumps. And Lucy's number 3.
Well, Lucy, that I have to say that sounds like a good father to me. And you know, I know we all didn't probably get to complete it. Again, take your time, stay, you know, keep working, put some music on. Some people like TV, and try to wrap up your composition however you can. If anybody would like to share really quickly, I know we're about a minute over time, so feel free to jump off if you've got to go. But if anyone would like to share, Sarah or Lucy or Barbara.
I can share. Can I share? Okay. Here's my timeline. And like Charles, this big plateau of happiness is when I became a mother and a wife. But I chose to write about, because this is the Andover reunion, I chose to write about something at Andover, or draw. And I was on the water polo team. That's the water polo ball. And it was just a really powerful anchor for me throughout high school with friends and family, but it was also gritty. So this is the grittiness down here, and this is the smooth water, and then the light shining down on me. And I had some smells that I tried to convey, but I'm going to add marker to it as well.
Or add some color.
So
Yeah, I do get that sense though of like gritty and texture and like movement. So yeah, a little color might make that really rooted. Very nice. Thank you for sharing. Would anyone else like to share what they've created or have in progress? Lucy?
So I did COVID. Oh, I did COVID. So this is 15 months. And in the summer, I lived with my mom, who lives right next to my dad. So it was like all the summer, and it ended up being all these elements of nature, like the waves are everywhere, and everything was sort of layered on top of each other in my experience. So it was sort of, you know, all over the place, like grass and sun and waves and birds and everything. So that was really fun.
Beautiful. Anyone else? So again, feel free to share your drawings with Olivia afterwards. I encourage you, I know it feels like a non-consequential drawing series you created, but if you get any of these matted and framed and hang it, someone's gonna ask you, hey, who did you buy that from? You know, because I think there is like such a beauty to this intuitive line that you've all explored today. So I wanna thank you for your time spending with me on a Friday afternoon. Feel free to reach out to me. I'll include my email address in the chat, and I'm happy to like just offer you some one-on-one feedback if you like. Otherwise, please, you know, enjoy the rest of this day, whatever the weather is where you are. And I'll stay on a little bit with Olivia if anybody has any questions.
Thank you very much for conducting this most interesting and enlightening session.
My pleasure. And thank you for sharing what you discovered in the journey of it too, including what you saw out of the window. That's really, I love those kinds of moments.
Thanks.
Thank you all. I know we have, oh, Barbara, I see you chatting.
Yeah, I'm signing off because I actually have to make a call before 4 o'clock. But this was very interesting. Really enjoyed it. Thank you so much.
Great. And Barbara, thank you for making it to our meeting today. I appreciate it. I understand. We all understand how it can get. So pleasure having you.
Thank
Bye,
you so
Sarah.
much. I was curious to know a little bit more about intuitive drawing, if there's anything you want to share about it.
Yeah, so it's a lot about connecting mind and body and thinking a lot about that relationship as one integrated self. And so it kind of stems from like fluxus practices where you're sort of finding surprise moments and art within things that aren't perceived as art. So I really kind of reference a lot of those fluxus practices from the 60s and 70s where line is poetry. And, you know, it's sort of, I think, rids us of the onus of like having to render. You know, I think it is, drawing has become sort of infused, like if we're not good at it, we're not allowed to do it. When we draw, before we learn to talk, you know, and so trying to kind of recover some of what society has sort of taken from us as in terms of like having another tool to communicate and express ourselves.
Thank you for that.
Sure.
Thank you so much.
I'd like to say thank you too, but I'm sorry I missed some of the class. I was in another meeting.
I'm
And
impressed you could jump back and forth.
oh, what?
I'm impressed you were able to join us. That's
Yeah.
pretty impressive multitasking.
Anyway, I'd like to contact you. I'm really interested in what you do, and I'd like to do more of this. Do you call it intuitive drawing? Is that what you call it?
Well, I think for the session, I don't know if there's a few books I actually brought with me that I think are really great. And so I can share some resources. This one's called Drawing Projects. Which
Okay.
has some nice drawing exercises. This one, I'm Linda Berry, the artist. She has this book called Syllabus, which actually my colleague here reminded me of. But a really fun one is this one by Carrie Smith, and it's called Mess. And it's literally this artist / author has these prompts on each page that you can follow along. They're different than what we did today, is something I designed for you. But the nice thing about this book is it sort of supports you in the process. You know, prompts, and you can just kind of follow along instead of having to search for them on your own. So I can definitely email me, send you these links, or I can pass them to Olivia and she can share this with you.
Okay. Yes, I like that. I like that. Okay. I just wrote them down: Drawing Projects, Syllabus, and Mess. Those are the 3 books. Okay.
Yeah, Mess, the Manual of Accidents and Mistakes is what it's called.
What, the Mess?
The Manual of Accidents and Mistakes.
Oh, the Manual of Accidents and Mistakes. I like that.
And she also has another one called Wreck This Journal.
What's it called?
Wreck This Journal. And I apologize, I'm not sure if it's she or he, but Wreck This Journal is the other one. And I can
RECK?
Wreck, correct.
RECKTUS? How do you spell that? Oh, Wreck. Oh, got it. Wreck This Journal. Got it.
Carrie Smith.
Got it. And it's Carrie Smith. Okay. Got it. Thanks. I'll check those out.
Yeah, they're fun. They're fun things to explore.
Okay. Okay. Sounds very good. Thank you. All right. I'm going to sign out. Bye-bye.
Thank you. And Rita, thank you. I will go ahead and just end our call.
Okay, great. Is there anything else that you need from me? Feel free to pass me along any drawings. I can send you, if people are interested in just diving deeper, a little reading